The Aztecs called it the black flower of the gods, the Spanish stole it, and one enslaved child gave it to the world. In the thick green hush of the Veracruz rainforest, vanilla begins not as a flavor, but as a living mystery. The vine climbs in slow spirals up the trunks of ancient trees, its roots clutching at the damp bark, its leaves catching the filtered sun. Here, the Totonac people have tended vanilla for generations, calling it xanat and treating each vine as both inheritance and responsibility. The flowers themselves are shy, pale, delicate, and fleeting. Each blossom opens for a single day, sometimes only a few hours, and if it is not pollinated by the native Melipona bee or a hummingbird in that narrow window, it withers, and the promise of a pod is lost. When the pods finally form, the true work begins. Harvest happens at night, guided by tradition and by the belief that the orchid's scent is strongest under moonlight. Women gather the beans, their hands practiced in the gentle twist that frees each pod from the vine. The curing process is as intricate as any ceremony. First, the beans are scalded in hot water to halt the enzymes. Then comes the sweating stage, pods wrapped in blankets or tucked into wooden boxes, left to ferment and darken as their aroma deepens. Sun drying follows, each bean laid out on woven mats to soak in the heat before they are finally conditioned in airtight baskets, aging for months until the fragrance is unmistakable. Every step is a negotiation with the rainforest's humidity and the plant's fragility. The craft is passed down through families, with women often leading the curing and men tending the vines and trees. Cured vanilla pods are stored in hand-woven baskets, opened only for festivals or sacred rites. For the Totonac, vanilla is more than a crop. It is a living thread that ties together land, labor, and memory, demanding patience and reverence with every harvest. According to Totonac legend, the first vanilla vine was born not from soil or seed, but from love that defied the gods. They tell of Xanath, a noble maiden whose beauty rivaled the dawn. Her father, a chief, kept her cloistered near the sacred groves, where the air shimmered with the promise of rain and the scent of wild orchids. One day, Xanath met Xanat, a humble youth who carved flutes from river reeds. Their hearts found each other in secret, meeting beneath the tangled canopy where the forest itself seemed to listen. But the gods, jealous of mortal happiness, intervened. In some tellings, it is the spirit of joy itself, a fat, laughing god, who discovers the pair and demands that Xanath surrender her heart to divine service. Others say a moon goddess or a priest forbids the match and threatens ruin if the lovers do not part. Xanath and Xanat refuse. They flee into the deepest part of the forest, chased by divine anger. When they are caught, their blood soaks the earth, mingling beneath the roots of a saber tree. Where their sacrifice falls, a green vine begins to rise, winding upward, delicate and persistent. The vine is crowned with pale flowers, each one opening for just a single day, as fleeting as forbidden love. When the first pods appear, the forest fills with a fragrance both sweet and mournful, a perfume that carries the memory of what was lost. Even now, Totonac elders say that every time vanilla blooms, it is Xanath's spirit returning, her love surviving in every flower's brief life. At harvest, women chant her name in the moonlight, a ritual echo of the old story. This legend is not history, but it lingers at the root of every vine, reminding all who tend them that vanilla's sweetness is born of longing, risk, and the refusal to forget. In the heart of the Aztec Empire, vanilla left the forest shadows behind and entered a new world of power and calculation. The orchid's pods, once a Totonac treasure, became a line item in Imperial tribute records under the name tlilxochitl, the black flower. Each year, caravans from the humid lowlands of Veracruz delivered bundles weighing up to 50 kilograms, stacked alongside cacao, feathers, and cotton as offerings to Tenochtitlan. These vanilla bundles flavored the ceremonial chocolate drinks of Moctezuma's court, a luxury reserved for nobles and warriors. The value of tlilxochitl was measured in weight and in status. each pod a token of conquered land and subjugated people. After the Spanish conquest, vanilla's fate was decided not by priests or poets, but by the logic of monopoly. Hernán Cortés, recognizing the demand for this rare flavor, confined its cultivation to royal estates in Veracruz. Royal decrees followed. Strict orders from Madrid declared that no live vanilla vine could leave New Spain without explicit license. The Casa de Contratación in Seville became the gatekeeper, inspecting every shipment and enforcing fines of up to 100 ducados for illegal export. Every pod was counted, every shipment tracked. Yet even with these controls, the Spanish crown could not force vanilla to grow elsewhere. Shipments of vines to Spain and the Philippines produced only leaves and flowers, never beans. The crucial Melipona bee and the hummingbirds that made pollination possible in Mexico were missing from European gardens, leaving the Spanish monopoly as much a product of biology as of law. For nearly 3 centuries, vanilla remained a tightly held prize, its reach limited by the fragile dance between plant and pollinator, a secret neither decree nor gold could unlock. On the island of Reunion in 1841, the vanilla puzzle finally broke open, not in a laboratory or a royal garden, but in the hands of a child. Edmond Albius was 12 and enslaved, tending the estate of Jacques Labre, when he noticed how the vanilla orchid's flower held its secrets. The blossom contained both male and female parts, but a thin membrane called the rostellum kept them apart. In Mexico, the Melipona bee slipped past this barrier, but on Reunion, the flowers bloomed and died untouched, their promise wasted. Albius watched, learned, and tried. One morning, he used a slender splinter of bamboo to lift the rostellum, then pressed the pollen onto the stigma with his thumb. The motion was gentle, almost invisible, a 3-step dance that took just seconds. Within weeks, the flowers began to swell, green pods forming where emptiness had ruled for centuries. The effect was staggering. Where natural pollination had produced barely 1 pod in 100, Albius's method set fruit on nearly 70% of the flowers. In a single season, plantation yields jumped tenfold. What had been a rare curiosity, limited by the whims of a rainforest insect, now became a commodity that could be grown anywhere patience and labor could reach. Word of the breakthrough traveled quickly. Planters on Reunion, and soon after in Madagascar and the Comoros, adopted the method. Edmond Albius, still a boy, had handed the world a key that unlocked vanilla's future, even as he remained in bondage. The hand-pollination technique he invented is still used today, a quiet testament to human ingenuity found in the least expected places. On the vanilla plantations of the Indian Ocean, the sweetness of the pod came at a bitter price. After Edmond Albius revealed the secret of hand-pollination, fields on Reunion and Madagascar filled with rows of vines, each flower demanding a human touch in the early morning. At first, enslaved workers performed the labor, thousands of hands moving from blossom to blossom under the watchful eyes of overseers. When slavery was abolished in 1848, planters turned to indentured laborers, many from Tamil and Malagasy communities bound by contracts that offered little freedom and less pay. The daily work was relentless: pollinate, tie, prune, harvest, cure. Each pod was precious, so valuable that theft became common. Planters heated branding irons and pressed them into the green beans, burning estate marks into the skin so stolen pods could be traced. The term Bourbon became a badge of both origin and quality, but also of the control exerted over every step of the process. In 1867, a notorious raid saw 3,000 vines stolen from one estate, sparking lawsuits and violence. The risk did not end with theft. Cyclones could flatten entire harvests in a night, as happened in 1895 on Reunion, and again in 2018, when storms in Madagascar sent prices soaring to $400 per kilogram. For field workers, the stakes were always personal. A single storm, a theft, or a price collapse meant hunger or debt. The world's craving for vanilla, its so-called black gold, drove a cycle of labor and loss that still haunts the trade today, setting the stage for the search for a cheaper, more reliable substitute. In 1909, a German chemist patented a method to extract vanillin, the signature molecule behind vanilla's aroma, from lignin, a woody byproduct of the paper industry. The invention was a quiet revolution. No longer did every drop of vanilla flavor depend on months of hand-pollination, curing, and the risks of storms or theft. By the 1930s, chemists had also mastered a synthetic route using guaiacol, a compound derived from coal tar. These breakthroughs did not just change the flavor industry, they split the very meaning of vanilla in two. Today, nearly 89% of all vanilla-flavored products, from supermarket ice cream to soda and perfume, are made with synthetic vanillin. The price is a fraction of what a real bean costs, and the supply is as steady as the next shipment of wood pulp or oil. Yet a small, stubborn niche remains. High-end pastry chefs, perfumers, and chocolate makers still seek out natural vanilla beans, paying hundreds of dollars per kilogram for the complex bouquet that no chemistry set can fully reproduce. On one side, there is the promise of affordable, reliable flavor. On the other, a fragile, labor-intensive luxury that carries the scent of rainforests, sweat, and risk. Every time a spoon cracks the surface of vanilla ice cream, it dips into this divide, a choice shaped by patents, chemistry, and the unseen hands behind the world's favorite flavor. Today, most vanilla desserts contain nothing from the rainforest vines the Totonac once called xanat. As prices soar and farmers in Madagascar face theft and danger, the world's most familiar flavor hangs by a thread. Every scoop is a taste of myth, invention, and survival. What stories sweeten your next spoonful?